Hi everyone, I'm Rabbi Shmuley, and welcome to the Sensual Revolution. Pushing your sexual boundaries, oh my. How comfortable is too comfortable? And what is considered extreme? Let me first say that sexuality is something instinctual. It's something congenital. It's where we allow ourselves to be put on autopilot, responding to a person's touch, responding to a person's advances, legitimate advances, so that we can have this electrifying feel that we're not calculating our response, but we're simply following instinct. It's one of the reasons that sexuality is so incredibly liberating. You know, one of the things that we Americans love is this idea of freedom and liberty. And sex plays such an important role in our lives because it's one of the most liberating things we could do as human beings. Virtually everything we do is kind of calculated. What I'm saying to this camera right now, I'm thinking about what to say. Even when you interact with close friends and you're very comfortable, there's still some calculation. And you don't just walk out into the streets naked, for example. You think about what you're going to put on. Everything is contrived to a certain degree. The exception, of course, is sex, where you place yourself in the comfort of a place with someone you trust and love, and hopefully that you're married to and committed to, and you allow instinct to take over. And you're no longer calculating every move and every response. It's one of the reasons why things like faking orgasm or faking any kind of response or saying things in sex that you don't mean is so incredibly off-putting. And of course, the person you're with will always know, because it's the exact opposite of freedom. It's actually incarceration. You're taking the most liberating of all human endeavors and you're making it into a prison and jail sentence. It shouldn't be that way. Sex should be liberating. And that's why when I speak about how extreme is too extreme, it really comes down to what you and your spouse, you and your partner are comfortable with. Now that sounds obvious, but let me make it a bit more specific. So many husbands and wives are dissatisfied in their sexual lives. And one of the main reasons is they don't have the confidence to tell their spouse what they're comfortable with or what they're not comfortable with, or asking your spouse to push themselves or allow themselves to be pushed consensually to a place that they may not think they're comfortable with, but might be pleasurable and enjoyable. All of this, of course, is about consent, but it's more than that. It's about a unifying sense of pleasure. It's about people enjoying something together and feeling closer as a result because they climbed the mountaintop together. They experienced this ecstatic joy together. So, what do you do about your comfort zone? You have to try new things, have to. You can't just do the same thing. It's not that new sexual positions or a sex toy or something is going to be transformative in your relationship. It's not. Attraction is transformative, desire is transformative, romance is transformative, and love is transformative. But what some of these things can do, external devices, is just serve as a catalyst to have some novelty so that the relationship, which is strong anyway, can be pushed to something a bit more exciting. We do have to break the kind of regular routine we set into, and it should not be broken by things like pornography where the two of you watch other people and now you're being excited by strangers and not by each other. And it of course should not be created, that novelty, with a new partner by having someone else, because infidelity and adultery is a sin. And it's not just a sin against God, it's in the Ten Commandments. It's a sin against your spouse and it's a sin against yourself because you're going to become a liar. You're going to be engaging in fraudulence. You're going to have a whole part of yourself cordoned off that you can no longer share with your spouse because you have to hide it. And that's not comfortable. Remember, sex is comfortable specifically when it is liberating. So whenever husbands come to me, and this happens a lot, and they say, you know, my wife's not that interested in sex. I'm more adventurous, and she's very conservative, and she's way too pious. They always say to them, you know, you can't complain if the dish is half-baked when you've taken no time to warm up the oven. A lot of reasons that some women, for example, are not into the kind of sexual activities that their husbands are proposing is that there's been almost no foreplay. You've taken almost no time to make your wife feel loved, desired, and get her properly into the mood. So you don't just jump to sex. Conversely, there's a lot of women who feel that their husbands aren't that interested in sex. I think I might even be hearing that complaint today more than the husbands complaining about their wives. The women come to me and they say, my husband's tired, or he plays video games at night, or he's always on his phone, or he just wants to watch TV. I have women who sit on my couch in counseling sessions with their mascara dripping down their faces as they relate to me that their husbands have not put a finger on them, touched them, in months. or even years. So what do you do about that? Communicate, communicate, communicate. A wife has to go to her husband and say, I am a woman with deep sexual needs. You're my husband. I love you. I'm attracted to you. I want to experience ecstasy and pleasure with you. And then do something about it, whether it's putting on lingerie, whether it's beginning to massage your husband. Not that the burden has to be on the wife. It has to be on the husband as well. I will say the exact same thing when it comes to a wife who seems a little bit uninterested. The husband has to say, I love you. I'm a man. We both have our needs. But more importantly, our marriage has needs for us to be sexually connected. And then kiss your wife. Buy her beautiful things like lingerie. Try to always look at best for one another. Make sex something that is joyous, exciting, and unifying. And when it comes to new things, sex toys, new positions, introduce them slowly. Introduce them casually. Make sure that your spouse is always on board, but show that it could be something pleasurable. And don't push it to the point where they begin to feel uncomfortable, not only because that's wrong, but also because it will bring the opposite of the desired effect. Not only will you not be having great sex, you'll be having really bad sex because they're going to be very uncomfortable and very inhibited. But speaking about inhibition, I am a great believer that we have to push beyond our sexual inhibitions. And this can often mean that people who are especially religious and feel very uncomfortable with sex or uncomfortable with adventurous sex, let me be clear. From a Jewish perspective, we believe that sex is something holy and sacred, spiritual and lofty. And what happens between a husband and wife, which is intimate and connecting, so long as it's not infiltrated with porn or other people, is something that is unifying. It's something very special. Dare I say it, it's kosher, it's holy. So you have to push beyond the inhibition. There should not be great piety when it comes to sex unless there's something that you're naturally uncomfortable with. But don't bring religion or God into it as if this is something that you should not like because it doesn't seem proper. Marital sex is very proper. It's very appropriate. It's beautiful and it's something glorious. There's a story about a woman who came to a rabbi centuries ago and she said, I don't get it. When I go out into the street, my religion tells me to be modestly attired. But suddenly when I come home to my husband and he wants me and I want him, I'm expected to lose all of that modesty and I'm expected to just let myself go and follow my instinct. There seems to be a dichotomy between those two modes of existence. And the rabbi looked at her and he said to her, the whole reason that you dressed modestly in the street is to lose all modesty in the bedroom. Let's purge ourselves of inhibition, not in a contrived fashion and not in a forced fashion, but in a natural and organic fashion, where husband and wife naturally kiss each other, fondle each other, engage in foreplay, and excite each other so that little by little our sexual inhibitions that hold us back are retired, and what comes in its place is an inferno of passion and desire. I'm Rabbi Shmuley, and I hope you continue to enjoy the sensual revolution.